welcome back to the Conscious Transformation podcast. I'm your host, Helena, and today we're diving deep into a topic that affects so many of us, especially high-performing professional women, and that is burnout. So in this episode, we're going to explore the elements of my Transforming Burnout Blueprint and share practical tips to help you manage stress and reclaim your life. As always, you'll find more information and resources in the show notes, including a link to download the Transforming Burnout Blueprint. You know, I wish I'd known consciously that you could have acknowledged the unspoken expectations that I felt as a young girl, not showing our emotions, our needs, being polite and stoic, taking on pain with a smile, managing others' feelings and more value than our own, and meeting others' needs before or instead of our own. Now, these are the background beliefs that we are often surrounded by or take on from society or through generational expectations or traumas. Now, these expectations only increased in the bucket loads as I became an adult, turning into my blind spots that I was completely unaware of. With each new responsibility or child or role, the mounting personal expectations for myself was that I could have and do it all, and that I was a bottomless pit ready to absorb the pain and just take on more and more challenges. Now, does this sound familiar to you? Now, before we dive too deep into this, I want to explain that I'm not saying that we should just down tools and expect the world or others to change to better support our needs. And I'm also not saying that we shouldn't continue to attack our goals, our responsibilities with as much effort as before. In fact, I think we should smash our goals and not expect the world to change instantaneously just because we need it to, but to educate ourselves, to change our behaviors, our beliefs, our expectations, and build a world where we can sustain achieving the goals and responsibilities that fulfills us and our children. And by educating ourselves, checking our thoughts and unconscious habits or blind spots, and learning how to decompress, to de-stress and take care of ourselves, we can then live a happier and healthier life. Now, in addition to all of the modern day stresses that we have, we also have these natural physiological responses to the world that we cannot control, such as our fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses. We could be experiencing these on a daily basis, whether you've got a bully boss or your walk home or a train journey. All these threats and our natural responses to them add to our daily maintenance level of stress. Now, even worse, if we have PTSD symptoms that can regularly trigger us into these responses from a simple or, air quotes, normal situation. We do our best to suppress them, to be socially polite and appear normal. With all of this, we basically have a recipe to be stuck in chronic stress without a mechanism to release it. Even just talking through it, I can feel the weight of, what would it feel like and what would it be like if we didn't have a mechanism to let it go, to decompress and release the stress. Emotions are really gifts to us. They're natural and beneficial processes that help us in so many ways. Yet we have been taught it's not okay to sit with the emotion and to feel it. We've been taught that emotions are not to be accepted, to be resisted. But if we were taught that emotions are like tunnels, if you allow them and then you'll come out the other side, the world would be a vastly different place. I'm hopeful that the next generation of children will be much more in touch with their emotions and processing them. We don't allow ourselves, and I'm talking for myself and my generation, and what I've seen in the generation before us, and what I've seen with my daughter and my children's generation. We don't allow ourselves to transition through the full range of natural responses, just like you would see in animals in nature. So we get stuck, often on repeat, and this stuck emotion is often ignored, repressed, or disassociated. In nature, when a simple duck fights with another duck, you'll notice that when it's over, both of the ducks, they flap their wings and they shake off their stress. Now, when a gazelle is caught by a lion, it goes into the freeze response. And if the lion, or after it's run and it can't get away effectively, it goes into that freeze response, right? And if the lion then leaves to go and fetch the cub, the gazelle senses the lion's departure and it'll start to shake. And then it'll get up and it will run away. Now, this shaking and this movement is a really natural full circuit of stress and recovery. So when have we enabled this process of stress and recovery to complete in our own lives? So even in non-life-threatening situations, we can experience this stress response, elevated heart rate, adrenaline, fear, anger, but we often repress our innate responses to be socially responsible, which is good and needed. But in doing so, we have not facilitated the natural circuit of stress and recovery. And this is what can often lead to burnout. So today, let's break down the Transforming Burnout Blueprint into its 3 stages. First, stress response, then stress release, and then SOAR, which is sustainable ownership and reinvention. So stage 1, stress response. Start by understanding the fundamental concepts that influence your stress response. So this involves the mechanisms of stress and how they impact your body and mind, how they activate our nervous system, so triggering responses like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Recognizing how limiting beliefs and negative thinking patterns multiply our stress, shaping our overall experience of it. Now, this stage sets the groundwork for effective stress management by adjusting our basic perceptions and responses to stress and deep diving into our unique thoughts, our unique feelings, responses, and experiences. So understanding the stress response is crucial because it forms the foundation of how we perceive and react to stressors in our lives. So think about it. Our bodies are hardwired to react to danger in many ways that ensure our survival. So this is known as the fight or the flight response. But in our modern world, this response can be triggered by non-life-threatening stressors such as work deadlines, family responsibilities, or social pressures. This constant activation of that stress response without proper release mechanisms can lead to chronic stress, which is detrimental to our health. Chronic stress affects our mental, emotional, and physical well-being, leading to anxiety, depression, fatigue, and even serious health conditions. Recognizing and understanding these responses allows us to take the first step in managing them effectively. On to stage 2, which is stress release. So once you understand how stress affects you, the next step is learning how to release it effectively. Now, this stage mainly focuses on the practical strategies to close the loop on the stress response and release the accumulated stress that's held within the body. So I learned this only a couple of years ago when I had a few transformational experiences with breath work. And after understanding stress release in animals, I could then see I was naturally trying to replicate the shaking or the movement to release the stress in my own life in certain situations, and often kind of under stress or just before bed. So it's vital to learn, and it's vital to then test and learn, trying techniques such as controlled breathing, mindfulness, and reframing to soothe and support our nervous system. You have to learn what works best for you and then incorporate them into your daily practices. This could be shaking, and I know it sounds a bit odd, but shaking really works. It doesn't have to be extremely vigorous. You can sort of just stand up and bounce on your feet and shake your arms gently whilst listening to music or not, laughing, crying, and exercise to help decompress and manage your day-to-day stress. It's a process, and you'll have everyday stress and likely chronic stress to let go of, which is why a solid routine and experimenting with different decompressing sessions like breathwork, yoga, or the creative arts, maybe it's painting or playing music, it's so important to experiment and see what works well for you. So stress release is about giving your body and your mind the tools that they need to let go of this accumulated tension. It's like hitting the reset button, allowing your system to recover and regain balance. So think about it. If you're constantly carrying around stress without releasing it, it builds up and eventually it leads to burnout. So by incorporating stress release practices into your daily routine, you can prevent this build-up and maintain a healthier balance and get to really understand you at a deeper level, your needs and what works best. So let's talk about some of the specific stress release techniques that you can start using today. Breathing exercises. So deep, controlled breathing is one of the simplest and most effective ways to calm your nervous system. So you can try this. You take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you can repeat this several times and notice how your body starts to relax. Sometimes that works. For some people it works, for others it doesn't. So it is all about experimenting and finding what's uniquely yours. You've also got mindfulness and meditation. These practices can help you to stay present and aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. So practicing mindfulness can reduce the stress and improve your overall mental well-being with just a few minutes each day. And you can focus on your breath, you can focus on the space around you, looking at the trees, or holding a simple mantra in your mind. Another powerful technique, which is I've just mentioned, which was the shaking. So obviously it might sound unusual, but shaking your body can help release this pent-up tension. And I've started doing it with my daughter, and it had us in fits of laughter. So we were attacking both the sort of the shaking and the laughing at the same time, and it really worked. And once you find what works for you, and when you start to do it and use it regularly, you'll see the shift. And you'll know that that's in your toolkit. So you can stand up, shake your arms, your legs, your whole body, and do this for a few minutes until you feel that sense of relief and relaxation. One of the keys to understanding whether you have completed that circuit or that cycle, or you've been able to release the stress, is often you'll feel your body relax a little bit more. The muscles will ease. You'll take a big, deep breath and really start to relax, and maybe that'd be a big sigh. They say laughter is also the best medicine, and it's so true. So you can watch a funny movie, read a humorous book, or spend time with your friends who make you laugh. Laughter releases endorphins, which are natural stress relievers. And sometimes having a good cry is all you need to release stress. So it's really okay to let your emotions out. And definitely, if you feel like you need a cry, absolutely feel free to go for it. Crying can be a very healthy way to process and release feelings that have been building up in the long term or the short term. And ultimately, exercise is a great way to reduce stress. So it doesn't have to be intense. Activities like walking, yoga, or dancing can be very effective. Physical exercise obviously, again, releases the endorphins, and it helps your body to process and shift and move around the stress that's in your body. So a part of the stress release process is, once you've understood how to decompress and you've tested and learned what suits you best, it's then how to protect and plan. So in the blueprint, I call it the wellness walls, which are so important to being able to build healthy boundaries, schedule in our decompressing and releasing stress slots into our diaries, and plan it for every day. So how do we set boundaries? Boundaries are essential for protecting not only your emotional, but also your mental well-being. They help us to manage our time and energy more effectively and prevent burnout. So start by identifying areas of your life where you might need to set more boundaries. This could be at work, in your personal relationships, or even with yourself or your children, if you can, if they're old enough. Communicate these boundaries clearly, and don't be afraid to say no to opportunities when you really need to take some time for self-care. Journaling is also a great tool to supplement all of these, as it can spot potential issues and enable you to make the changes to de-stress and look after your own needs when you need them, but perhaps they're not so conscious. Rereading your notes and thinking, is there anything here that I can do to address these feelings? So use your journal to record your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And this can help you to gain clarity, process your emotions, and track your progress. Mindset is another really important part after you have understood and practiced your daily decompressing. So, once you've got into the habit of decompressing, start looking at your beliefs. Look for any limiting beliefs, negative thinking. Are you getting sucked into a negative thought pattern? And reframing thoughts which do not support your journey of fulfillment, for de-stressing. It's oftentimes that especially when we're stressed, that we can get sucked into these vortices of negative energy, negative thinking, and cycles. And one of the best ways to build positivity into our lives is through practicing gratitude, which has such a contagiously positive impact on us and those around us. It's a fantastic tool. Now let's move on to stage 3, SOAR. Sustainable ownership and reinvention. So with a clear understanding and effective release strategies, the final stage is about thriving and reinventing ourselves. So this involves defining our purpose and setting meaningful goals, finding and cultivating a supportive tribe by engaging in community support, building connections, and supporting others. So SOAR is all about taking the tools and insights that you've gained in the first 2 stages and using them to create a life that not only manages stress, but also promotes your growth and fulfillment. Setting boundaries to protect your well-being, finding a purpose in your daily activities, and building meaningful connections with others. So it's really about creating that balanced and fulfilling life where you can really thrive. So in SOAR, we have the 3 kind of core components: defining your purpose, setting meaningful goals, and finding your tribe. So having clear sense of purpose can give you direction and motivation and uplift you out of your stress. So take some time to reflect on what truly matters to you. What are your passions? What makes you feel fulfilled? Use this insight to guide your decisions and actions and align it with your daily activities and align it with your purpose. Setting meaningful goals helps you to stay focused and motivated, breaking your longer term goals into smaller, manageable steps. This makes them less overwhelming and more achievable. It's really important to celebrate your progress along the way. So adjust your goals as needed to stay aligned with your purpose. And finally, finding your tribe is something that I've only experienced later in my life, and it has been such a gift. Start to seek out and surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. Engage in community activities, build connections with like-minded individuals. It doesn't have to be all in physical, in real life person. It can be online and digital. And support others on their journeys. This sense of community can provide you with so much more than you could imagine, along with all the encouragement and accountability that you need to stay on track. And with all these elements and these 3 stages, it gives us a map out of overwhelm and burnout and inspires us to reinvent ourselves, to take the opportunity to change. So I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. If you'd like to find out more, you can download the Transformation Burnout Blueprint from the link in the show notes. And don't forget to join our free membership group, which has lots more resources, tips, and to support your journey. So thank you for tuning in today. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might also enjoy it. With lots of love, Helena. Thank you.